All right, welcome back, everybody.
We're back.
Another week of Up North Journal live in the cabin.
Right, exactly.
So, if you guys pay a little attention tonight and listen to the audio, see if it's better, different, worse. We did some stuff, so we're going to see how this works tonight.
Right, we did a little testing.
Sounds good on our end, but then again, the audio's always been good and clean on our end anyway, so. But we're trying some new mics tonight, so we'll see what happens here. And as soon as this catches on my page, there we go. What do you think, Danny? You close? You ready?
Mr. Coleman is in the house.
All right.
Good to go. I think we are ready to rock and roll the rocket ship.
You think we're ready? Okay, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, here we go. Stand by in 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal. Your host Mike Adams sitting in the cabin tonight along with Big Dan DeFaw. And Mark Coleman says our audio is just a little bit muffled tonight, so starting off not so good. We'll bring the audio down, levels down a little bit here and see what happens. So
exactly.
Playing with some stuff here in the studio tonight. So
we're doing really good for being May.
it is May.
It is May.
It may snow, it may rain, it may be sunshine at 80.
And it all happens in one day.
And that's why they call it May.
That's right. Amen to that. I tell you what, it's been, I gotta cut the lawn.
Gotta cut the lawn.
I gotta cut the lawn. It's time, I think.
All right. All right, I tell you what. You know what? Everybody's saying it's muffled in tennies, so I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's just stop our record here real quick. Let's make the switch, Danny, real quick.
All right.
I'm going to bring audio down. You guys can sit and watch while we bring the audio.
All right. We're back.
Okay, let's bring the levels down just a little bit here. And we'll bring yours down a little bit.
And we'll see how we go from there, right?
It should be pretty close to back to where we were at. All right, everybody. Hopefully that sounds a little bit better for you. But that's the only way we can test this stuff is to actually throw it out there live and see how it plays for you guys.
Yeah, that's right. We throw it out there and you tell us.
So, all right.
All right.
Here we go. Get the record button again. And stand by in 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal. Everybody, host Mike Adams sitting in the cabin tonight with Dan DeFaw. Weather's changing. It's getting warm.
It is.
That means that hunting season is upon us. Turkey season's going on. We're going to be doing some scouting, some archery shooting.
While you're out scouting, you do some shed hunting, or vice versa.
There you go. But before we get started, Mike, let's take care of the people who take care of us.
Absolutely. I tell you what, folks, if you haven't been down to the brick and mortar store at Deer Camp, get down there, check it out. If you go to the Buck Baits website, www.buckbaits.com, use the promo code UNJ20, you get 20% off your order there. Spring food plots, should be working that soil. Make sure you take care of the last most important part using the Packermax. Get over to Packermax.com, use the promo code UNJ25, and you'll get $25 off your order there. If you're doing a little coyote hunting, maybe you need a little turkey call, maybe you're thinking deer, get over to jpogamecalls.com, use the promo code UNJ10, you'll get 10% off your order there. Now, the Island Armory. I tell you what, folks, you got to go check out their website. Always changing, always adding. Look at what they got in stock, and then see what happens when you get there. Go over to the islandarmory.com, use the promo code UNJ10, get 10% off your order at their website. And last but not least, Deer Camp Coffee. Like I said, get to the Deer Camp Brick and Mortar in Sterling Heights at 15 Dodge Park. Try some coffee that they have there. If you go to the website, deercampcoffee.com, use the promo code UNJ10, you get 10% off your order. And while you're there, make sure you pick up a bag of UNJ coffee and make sure that you help support us. And if you come over to me, where we can go real quick, folks, that's right, we're going to go real quick up to Newberry, FM 123 in Newberry, Michigan. Ciders, where they supply a nice pizza, and they do have Deer Camp coffee. It's a nice 50 degrees up there.
There you go. And the snow is gone.
Look at the blue skies, like here.
There you go.
So, all right. I think I got my bow last week. You're getting your bow tomorrow. And we shall.
Well, we're going to set in the shot for 1 second while I try to clear a pop-up that is popped up on their screen. This is not going good tonight. This is going just like my week has gone. So
Right.
bear with us. Hang with us just for a second, Derek. I got a pop-up on your screen here. And we will. This is the second time in the last couple weeks that this has happened. Okay, go ahead. Take it back. All right, Danny, get over here.
You got that down pat.
Here we go. All right. Derek, finally, we got you on here. What's going on?
Not much. How you doing, guys?
Scrambling right now. I guess we should have left well enough alone and quit playing with stuff tonight and trying something new. But we've got you. Everything's settled here. We got you on. And we got Derek Vaughn from Sunrise Archery on tonight. We're going to be talking about shed hunting. We're going to be talking about maybe a little turkey hunting. We're going to be talking about bow setups from TAC tonight. So how's everything going at the shop?
It's going good. You know, nice and steady. It seems like the weather has a lot to do with it this time of year. We get some rain. We get a lot of business. The bright sunny days, it can be slower during the week, but the weekends are still strong. So it's solid. It's not quite as crazy as it was last year with all the COVID dollars everybody was getting and all that. So, but it's nice and steady.
You know, people got all that money, man, and all of a sudden everybody got a new bow. New gear.
Sure.
I mean, not that that's a bad thing. I mean, I don't want to get into the politics of all that, but, you know, it helped everybody out that wanted to get new gear for sure. So.
Oh, yeah.
So, what have you been up to lately? We haven't talked in a while.
Well, outside of work, it's been a pretty busy spring. I've been traveling a little bit. I think we're going to touch on a couple different states I went to for shed hunting and scouting purposes. We got a hunt in Iowa next year, so we went and walked that ground for the first time this spring, and it was pretty awesome. Kind of eye-opening when you get out there and, you know, you're finding multiple sheds per hour when you might find a couple a year here in Michigan, so it's pretty eye-opening. Other than that, they got out, killed a bird on Sunday, filled my turkey tag. The guys at the shop, I think you talked about it earlier, it may have been with me, but two of the guys at the shop put together an awesome turkey hunt video. The first Sunday, they doubled with their bows. The lazy boss myself had to use the shotgun, so we won't talk about that though.
Well, hey, I tell you what,
You all got one. That's all that matters, no matter how you got it.
at least you got out, because I have yet to get out in the field. I won't be able to get out this year due to work conditions right now. There's just no way. I'm not even going to spend money on a tag this year. But, you know, hats off to the two guys in the shop there that work with you. The video that they put together, you got that over on the Bow Shop's page, is that correct?
I think we shared a link.
Link to it?
It's on YouTube.
Okay.
Zach and his family, they have a YouTube actual channel. It's Warda's in the Wild.
Okay.
And they've had limited videos the last couple years. They just haven't had a lot of time to film stuff. But he does a really good job with editing. He has top-notch equipment and really did an awesome job on that video. The footage is as good as you're going to see on a turkey hunt.
I was blown away at the way them birds come in. I don't want to give away too much of it for those of you to go over and watch it, because I'll tell you what, it's worth the watch by far. It's some of the best footage I think I've ever seen. So
Yeah, it is. I was shocked when I saw it.
it's pretty cool. So
Right? Exactly. I tell you what, it's just one of those things. It's that time of year. I tell you what, you know, like you said, you had to use a shotgun, but it is what it is. You got a bird.
Yeah,
So
it's fun.
Exactly. You know, you get out there, it's warm, you're not freezing your tail off, but yeah, you got that bird, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show about you getting the bird and you being out there in the field after him. But we brought you on because I know you're going to TAC, we're going to TAC. We're setting up our bows, getting ready, and there's a few questions out there that people have. We see it in the forums on Facebook, questions all over the place. What kind of setup are you going to go with going to TAC?
My TAC setup's going to be pretty much my hunting setup for me. And for, that can't always be the case for everybody because they might not be able to get the range out of their sight or their arrow setup. But with my deer hunting setup, I can typically get 100 plus as long as I'm using a movable sight. I pull heavier weight. I'm in the low 70s, 28-inch draw, and then my peep height is at or above average height, which that's a factor we can talk about a little bit later if you want, but that really can change the amount of range you'll get out of your setup. And we've had several people in the last couple of years that we actually had to change their form and anchor a little bit just for TAC so that they could shoot the longer shots. It's something that's not really thought about much, but the arrow to your sight distance is critical, and the higher your peep sight is, the higher your sight can be, and it gives you more range. But for me, it's, I'm running probably a 460 to 470 grain arrow, and it'll be shooting 280-ish, give or take, depending on what bow I end up shooting. And last year, I was able to get 120, maybe even 130 without running into my arrow with my sight clearance. So that similar setup should work fine.
Do you, we've seen a lot of talk on the TAC forums. I mean, I don't even want to get into the registration process this year of how that all shook out. But the forum has people from all the different venues, beforehand, afterwards, talking about how great it was, talking about the setups they're going to run, asking questions. I've seen a lot of talk this year about, you talked about different form and setup of the bow to get that range, but everybody's talking about arrows. What kind of vanes to run, what kind of weight, forward of center, all these different things are coming in. But you mentioned, a lot of people just go out and shoot their hunting setup, and actually that's what you shoot, right?
That's what I'm going to be shooting my hunting setup, and like he said, just using a different type of sight gets you that extended range, and then like he said, maybe lifting up your peep sight a little bit, it extends it even more. Like he said, he's good out to 110, 120. Right? So,
yep.
Derek, when you go out to do that, one of the things I really like about what you did is when you get down there and you set up that bow, first thing, we're only at 5 yards, if that, and, you tune that bow to that arrow that you're going to shoot, and it's awesome. We shoot it through paper. I think it only took a couple, and we were shooting mine bullet through the paper, but, I'm going out there with my hunting setup. What sight are you going to be running that you're getting the adjustment out of it?
Oh, we lost them. We completely lost them. Wow, this show is not going as planned. All right, let me bring it back front and center here while Danny does a quick... what happened here? We just completely... The whole feed completely went. That's odd.
Kill that.
Huh. Start that.
Start.
All right, folks, we're just going to throw to a break here, first break, and we're going to fix this in the break. So we're going to step outside, take a break, and we'll be right back after this. So this has not been a good night here in the cabin. So we might be switching.
All he needs to do is just come back in, right?
Yeah. Yep. So the feed just died. Thank you, Internet. So, got questions? Throw them in. We'll answer some questions as we're going along here.
There he is.
So, he's back. Okay. All right. Well, let me see if it was on his end or on our end.
It was on our All right, we're back.
Okay, we're back on. Derek, are you there, bud?
I'm back.
I don't know what happened. The
I had
connection.
a countdown running on my screen, and I don't know what it was from, but obviously it meant something. Sorry about that.
Oh no, it's not your fault.
All right. Yeah.
Zoom's been doing some
They're monkeying around.
monkeying around with some stuff here lately, and we've had a couple issues the last couple of weeks. I think they're wanting us to actually buy service now, so we will see. But,
All right.
okay.
You were in the middle of asking me a question, but I panicked, and I don't remember what you were asking.
All right, well, we'll pick it back up from there. So what I did is just throw it to a break, and we'll just pick it up from there as soon as Danny sits back down. Come on, Big Dan.
I'm here.
All right, here we go. Stand by in 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back. We are back live, I hope, here. There's Derek. Got him back in the double box here. Everything's good for now. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, Mark Coleman says, "May the 4th be with you. The force is not strong with this feed tonight." That's true. Oh, okay. Well, second segment, let's pick it back up. We were asking Derek a question, and we were talking about setups. We're talking about arrows and all the different talk. And Danny, you were in the middle of it.
I was starting off with talking about getting that extended range. Some people have a fixed 3-pin sight that they can move just 3 pins. Some have a dial sight where we can rotate, put a sight tape on it. What sight are you going to be running for the tack?
I'll be using a movable, it'll either be a 2 or a 3-pin. I haven't decided yet. Depends on if I got a new sight on order that I haven't got yet. Depends on when I get it. If I don't get it in time, it'll be a 3-pin movable, similar to what both of you guys are shooting.
Okay. And I haven't really decided yet if I'm going to rip that sight off the bow I got now or if I'm just going to go ahead and pop for another one. So I guess you and I will be talking tomorrow after I get out of work. We'll figure that out.
Yeah.
So, but you know, the setup I had last year, the adjustable with the sight tape and everything, that sight to me worked flawlessly. I was totally blown away at how easy it was to set up, number one, and how quickly it went. But the accuracy of those things, to me, is just out of this world. But, you know, we talked too about, you know, a lot of guys run their hunting setup. Do you ever hear guys talking about, well, hey, I'm going to take my target bow? Because, you know, a lot of these guys shoot long distance.
A few, maybe 3D bows. I don't see many guys running pure target bows. I'm sure there's a few, but for the most part, I see it's more of a hunting shoot that's just extra challenging. You might see some guys show up with a target bow to shoot for the truck, you know, the 111-yard shot, where they got a mark, you know, for that yardage and try to win that. But I think out on the course, and I haven't shot it. This will be my first year actually shooting it, but I went up and I saw everybody there last year and kind of watched, you know, the practice range and guys shooting at the truck. It looked like all hunting bows to me.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think I've ever seen a target bow.
It's pretty much all hunting bows, or maybe they're going to run like an extended, you know, the counterweights and stuff like that. Most of the time, it's all the hunting setup. It's just how deeply you want to get into it. Make sure you're wearing full camo, your backpack, the whole 9 yards. But, you know, are you going to be going after that 111-yard shot after that truck?
Maybe.
You got to do it.
We'll see how I shoot.
If we're there, we're going to watch you do it.
I'll be ready. I'll be ready for it. It'll just depend on how I'm feeling that day. Probably. I'm sure I'll shoot a couple times at it.
That'd be awesome. I'd like to see it hit it and get entered in for that truck, because there isn't many that get entered in after all. But
no, if you hit it, it's pretty good. You got decent odds of winning it.
it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. So
I was there on Sunday last year, and I think there was only maybe 10 or 12 for the whole weekend.
exactly, and then you take that over. You take that over all your, you know, you just So
You probably got 100 people or so.
yeah, maybe. So you know, that's one of the questions. Okay, so you're using a movable sighting in. Question coming in: how important are stabilizers? Whether you're running just one out the front, or maybe you're running one out the front, one out the side. How important is a stabilizer to the bow?
I think on a shoot like that, where you're shooting long range, it's super important, because it's all about being able to hold that pin where you want it. And the farther the shot, the harder it is to hold on target. So it's all about getting that bow to aim as steady as possible, and that's going to be, for some people, I mean, they can draw back and that pin essentially is barely moving. For other people, it's going to have a little bit more float. And if you're getting float, the idea is to slow that float down so that you have less anxiety, and less likely to have target panic and punch the trigger. When you're shooting out past 60, 70, 80 yards, like a lot of these shots are, you got to make a good shot.
Yep.
The execution, everything, not just the pin being there, the form, the grip, everything's got to be right there, or you're going to miss, by a lot, when you start stretching it out. So the stabilizers help that pin float and that mental anxiety of the whole thing. So it can be very important.
I was amazed at the difference it made when I put it on my hunting bow. I mean, I'm not running a 30-inch rod out the front, but I mean, I'm running a 12 and a 10, a front bar and a back bar. And to me, it brings it in level a lot easier, slows that shimmy down, and like you said, the pin float. To me, I hunt with it now. I'm not going to go out without it in the field.
Right.
It's that critical for me.
Yeah, I've been hunting with a back bar for, 8 years or so. And that's just basically the only way I shoot a bow now, and I just got comfortable with it. I aim better. I actually use that back bar as a brace against my thigh or hip, if I have deer approaching and I'm standing holding my bow so I don't have to hold the full weight of the bow. So there's a lot of benefits to it. The only downside is it adds, physical weight and makes your whole setup heavier. If you got a long haul or you're going out west, it could be something to think about. But for most of your Midwest guys that are walking a couple hundred yards, it's worth it for me because I just shoot better that way.
Okay, well, speaking of that, talking about adding weight to your bow and the setup and to help you shoot better, but like if you're going to do a hike in, guys out west, I know a lot of guys use bow slings. Do you use a bow sling when you're hunting around this area?
I have not, but I haven't hunted out west, outside of whitetail, outside of, say Illinois. I haven't been out in the mountains hunting, so that's something I probably would have if I was going out west.
Okay. Now, you talked about Iowa. You out there, you got an archery tag for that? That's where you're going to be archery hunting this year?
It'll be next fall, so 2023.
Okay.
And I have 5 Iowa points, which should be guaranteed to draw. I could probably draw this year, but the place I'm going, it's a private landowner. It's not an outfit or anything, but he doesn't have anything available this year. So me and a buddy next year will be the only 2 bow hunters on that ground. And we'll both have 5 points, so we should be, 100% to draw.
Nice. Gotta like that.
That sounds definitely promising looking down the road, for it.
Yeah.
One of the questions coming, this one I can answer, and Mike can answer. Is there a course for traditional bows or up there at TAC? No, but that's not to say you could take a traditional bow out there because
I've seen them.
It's all for fun.
Yeah.
You can make it whatever you want. Whether if it's a 100-yard shot and you're a traditional archer and you're only comfortable at 60, you can move up.
Well, we shot the Sitka course 2 years ago, and everything was like 50 plus out, up to like 120, 130 yards. So, when it got to those longer distances, I was only set up for 60, and I was taking 70-yard pokes using my bubble as my pen. But we would move up, on the targets. I mean, that's one nice thing about it, is if you don't feel comfortable with that shot,
Make it comfortable.
Make it comfortable. It's not like you're shooting for money. You're not shooting for points or position. Danny and I, we keep score for each other just to do it.
Right.
That's it. I mean, and speaking of tech, Derek, when you went out there last year to look and just got to get a feel for everything, coming back from that event, what were a couple of the main things that you got out of that, just watching and figuring out how you're going to approach it this year?
It just seemed like there's a lot of excitement around it. Everybody there is pumped up. They're having fun. Like you said, it's not a high-stress thing at all. It's not a competition. There's not guys coming off the hill that are bummed out because they didn't shoot great, It's a shoot that's, unrealistic for most, to go out there and drill every target because they're long and they're uphill, downhill, so it's really just a fun event that I've really, outside of, like, maybe registration purposes, never really heard anybody complain about it,
Exactly.
And I think they're happy coming off the hills because they figured out they didn't lose as many arrows as they thought they were going to lose.
Right. Yeah. If you go out and you only lose an arrow or bust one arrow, you're doing pretty doggone good.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
We didn't even shoot, and we had a good time. I mean, we're just walking around to all the vendors. There's a show there in and of itself. Just if you just went and walked around and talked to people. Heck, I think you could probably walk in with a bow and shoot the practice range and not even shoot the course and have a good time.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
You know, and that's the thing about with the archery, that community. It's a small. I mean, there's a lot of people. I think it's 1,400 people they allow on the mountain as a ticket sales, if I remember right from last year. But just with that alone, the community is a tight knit community. Everybody's helping each other. Everybody gets along. I mean, it's just a good time.
Exactly.
You know, you get to hang out. You get to see people you haven't seen in a while from different companies. They're there, you know, repping, and then Danny and I give each other the business while we're there, you know, and picking on each other. I mean, that's the best part of it, you know. It's always competition, whether it's having fun competition or if it's, you know, shooting against your buddy. So, so you talked a little bit about your practice, you know, getting ready for it. How are you approaching practice? I mean, you said shooting a truck. I mean, you're shooting long distance on a regular basis?
Not yet. I need to start.
He's like me. I haven't shot yet.
I'll be honest with you. I don't even know what bow I'm going to shoot.
Okay.
Right now. But I need to decide probably like right now. Now that it's nice out, I got a bird down. I'd still like to get my wife and daughter a bird if possible. They've been under the weather lately though, so we're trying to get over all that. But hopefully here in the next week or two we can do that and get the shooting serious and start stretching it out a little bit.
There you go.
You know, and just remind everybody, we're talking with Derek Vaughn at Sunrise Archery, and if you get a chance, get over to their website, check them out, look it over. If you see anything interesting, and you need to give them a shout, give Derek a shout over at sunrisearchery.com. They got a whole bunch of stuff, products, brands, bunch of different stuff. If you're in the area of Fenton, stop in over at the shop, say hi, check it out, do some shopping. I tell you what, it's one of those things. It's nice to have a great shop in the area.
Well, you know, I see a guy that posted a question on our page before. This was during the week when we announced you were coming on. Ron Gerchow is on, and he had a question. He wanted to know what all the talk and the hype is about everybody, and we kind of alluded to this in the beginning of the show, and we noticed it on the forums, people talking about arrow setups, and everybody's like talking about heavy fronted center. You know, why is everybody, I mean, really going after that, the advantage of that? Or is it just hype right now? What do you think?
Well, there's definitely some advantages to FOC. I know in the hunting industry in the last couple of years, some of the guys that do a lot of YouTube videos and have some shows have really hyped up building, you know, really heavy arrows with a ton of weight in the front. And I think it's almost gotten overboard a little bit personally. I've always been a guy that shot what I considered for years to be a moderately heavy arrow, heavier than most stock arrow builds. You know, it might weigh 460 to 480, which now is almost mediocre to light compared to what some of these guys are doing. And for tack purposes, you can't get crazy. A lot of the best shafts, I think, that are designed for long range are lighter shafts, and then you're going to put decent weight up front, and you're still not going to have a crazy arrow weight. So they're going to have really good FOC inherently, and the FOC does help track down range. You know, it helps cut the wind. The smaller diameter arrows help cut the wind. So there are advantages to it, but you know, especially what seems like with the hunting arrows, you know, we got guys that have 400 grains just in the front of the arrow.
Wow.
And you got to get the arrow there. You know, if you're shooting 20, 30 yards tops and that's it, you know, that arrow is probably going to work great for you. It's going to penetrate like crazy. But I've killed a lot of deer with a bow over the years, and that range that I'm in, at 450 to 500, you know, narrow it down to 460, 480, whatever you want to do. But that arrow weight for me has been very, very successul.
I think what happens is it gets to be that buzzword, and everybody wants to be in on it, and I don't know, just hey, I got so much in the front. No, I got so much in the front. You still got to hit what you're shooting at, whether it's 10 yards or 100 yards. Well,
is the theory behind it on the arrow build, instead of pushing the arrow, I mean, obviously you're pushing it with the string, it's coming off the bow, in flight, and you get that weight, you get that momentum going, it's pulling the arrow instead of the arrow being pushed. Is that pretty much?
That's the way they describe it, but it physically can't pull it.
Right.
It's still getting pushed from behind, but when it hits something, it can, so if you had two arrows, let's say, for example, that both weighed 500 grains, and one had 20% FOC and one had 10.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a 20 is going to probably track better. It's probably going to penetrate better. It is going to perform a little bit better, but it's going to be marginally on an animal, in my opinion. Now, if you take, let's say you build a super light shaft. There's shafts out there that are 6-something an inch, even at a 350 spine, and you put a decent amount of weight in the front. You build a 350 grain arrow that has decent FOC, and you put that arrow up against, say, a 500 grain arrow, let's say a full metal jacket with a stock insert, 100 grain point. It's a heavy shaft, so inherently it has less FOC, even though it's way heavier than a light arrow. That 500 grain arrow on an animal is still going to penetrate better than a light arrow with higher FOC. So I get in this conversation all the time, the actual physical arrow weight is more important than what the FOC is, as far as penetration, like on an animal. Now, if you have two equal weighted arrows, yeah, the higher FOC might marginally perform better, but the arrow weight, what the actual arrow weighs, to me, is far more critical than what the FOC measures.
Okay, all right, gotcha. Yeah, we just had a question come in. Somebody's asking, if you're setting up an arrow and you're looking at building one heavy front and center, how do you measure that heaviness on the front and center? How do you know how you're setting that up?
There's calculations to do it, and I'll be honest, I don't do it. Unless if somebody specifically asks me to do it, I can pull it up, and you can Google it. You measure the overall arrow, then you take a measurement where the arrow actually balances, and then there's a formula that will tell you the FOC.
There you go.
I don't physically measure my arrows for FOC, never have. I know there's a lot of good shooters that never have, pros that never have. You can look at a guy like Levi Morgan, that same question comes up to him every show he does, and he'll say the same thing. He's never once measured it on an arrow. So if a guy like that doesn't care what the percentage is, I don't see why everybody else is so wrapped up in it.
Right, exactly.
I don't shoot good enough.
Right? It's just a buzz thing. Good shout out to Sunrise. Tom Gensel said, great people at Sunrise. I bought a bow, had a second shoulder replacement, couldn't shoot, showed up this spring, and they took excellent care and helped me get back in the game.
There you go.
Tell you what.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That's Derek and company over there at Sunrise. So, got your bow, you're all set, ready to go, start shooting. We're going to start shooting. But, that's just getting your bow set up for like a tack thing. But being in the spring, I think we can kind of move on over to the shed hunting part, because there's some nice sheds that he found.
Absolutely. I tell you what, let's take a break, and
All
then we're going to step outside. We'll talk about that and about the spring scouting, how they kind of go together. So we're going to step outside, take care of some quick business. We'll be right back after this. All right.
All right, folks. We're transitioning from bows that are set up, and 3 guys need to start shooting them.
I've shot mine, the one I'm shooting now.
But not the one you got getting set up.
No. Actually, tomorrow I'm going to go out, and Derek's going to work with me on shooting paper,
Right.
and getting a new rig ready to roll tomorrow. So the plan is to take that one to tack. So
You better.
depending on my shooting, but like I said, I have shot twice this year in the last week, 2 weeks.
Gotcha.
I've been out, not a lot, just enough to loosen the shoulder up a little bit and kind of get ready for it. So here we go. 3, 2, and 1. All right, we're back, folks. Third segment. We've kind of talked about tack setups and things of that nature, but we also talked a little bit about, or Derek talked a little bit about his Iowa property. So, Derek, you sent me some pictures here. Some pretty big sheds that you found out that way. Talk a little bit about the sheds you found, and then
First of all, which states did you go to do some shed hunting?
I've shed hunted my Michigan leases, and then the Iowa property, and then I've got a small lease in southern Indiana. I went down there more for stand maintenance and that kind of stuff because I felt it was a little late. It was into April, starting to green up down there because it's way down by Kentucky.
Okay.
But I did pick up a nice antler down there while I was doing that too. So.
Yeah, Indiana's got some nice bucks.
Right.
I will say that. So you weren't actively shed hunting in Indiana. You just happened to run across one while you're doing some trimming.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I'm in the woods, and especially March and then into April, I'm always keeping an eye out. But it wasn't the goal of the trip by any means.
Okay. Well, the ones we got a picture of, you got a deadhead in there, and then you got a buku load of antlers laying out on the ground. Are these from your from Iowa?
Yeah, that was 2 days. That was 2 days in Iowa.
Wow. Wow. That is
And
simply
never having stepped foot on the ground before. Just basically, me and a buddy of mine, we showed up. I guess it would have been Saturday morning, and tried to cover as much ground as we possibly could, get a feel for the lay of the land. Really only found one, the first half of that first day, and then we got into an area that we felt, good about, and we started finding actually some old dead deer that were actually bucks that had shed and then died in the wintertime.
Okay.
And it was a little bit eye-opening. We're like, well, if they're dying in here in the winter after they've shed, that means they're bedding in this area. There's probably going to be some sheds in here. And we really started, looking harder there, and we really started getting into some antlers there.
Okay. Do you think it's from the weather as far as like a big cold blast, or is it nutrition, or a combination of both?
Those deer that had died?
Yeah.
Hard to say. They were from years prior. They weren't fresh. They had been there at least a couple of years, those two bucks that we found.
Okay.
So it's hard to say. It could have been, maybe they got wounded during the season and then just couldn't make it through the winter, or they were old, or neither one of them looked like a giant deer, so I wouldn't say it was old age. It was probably a wound or sickness or something that got them.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, after you put foot on the property, obviously Iowa, what I think of Iowa, what I've seen, big open cornfields, a lot of, open land. Compared to Michigan, I mean, there really is no comparison. Hunting styles, I mean, how are you going to approach the hunt?
This particular piece of property is actually almost all timber. It doesn't have ag on it. It's got some long, skinny, finger type food plots that the landowners put in, and it's real hilly, kind of similar to where I hunt down in Indiana as far as the hills, maybe not quite as extreme.
Okay.
But it's got a pretty good roll to it in some areas that are pretty steep, some pretty good creek bottoms. It's not going to be, it's going to be somewhere in between the stuff I hunt here in Michigan and what I hunt down in Indiana as far as my approach, I think.
Okay, so you're not hunting big timber, but you're not hunting open land either, so.
Yeah, there's some pretty good chunks of timber. There's a lot more cedars and stuff like that.
Okay.
A lot more creeks and drainages and stuff like that you can utilize that force the deer to move in certain areas. There's a lot of ditches that are steep, and they at the heads of those ditches you'll see a lot of sign because they're forced to go around them. There's just a lot of terrain features out there that you're hunting more terrain features than you do in Michigan, that's for sure.
Being at the springtime, are you getting a good feel of what you're going to be expecting? Now, I'm assuming you're probably going to go down next spring again, and are you getting a pretty good feel of how you're seeing it, just looking at it in the spring so far?
Yeah, we were ecstatic. We had expectations, and I always try to temper them when I go to a new place. Iowa's always kind of been a dream hunt of mine as far as whitetails go, so I had high expectations, but at the same time, I didn't want to be disappointed when I got there. So I had reasonable expectations, and both of us were kind of blown away with what we saw as far as the layout of the land, the sign that we saw. Obviously, picking up that many antlers was a big bonus. Makes you feel real good about the number of bucks in the area. And I actually have a buddy of mine that's hunted that particular farm in the past, so I know the caliber of deer in the area. It's in a really good area. Yeah, that time of year, we were there in the middle of March. You can see everything. Anything that happened the year prior as far as sign is still visible. There's no green up going on yet. All the trails are real prominent, easy to see. All the rubs are still there. You can still find the scrapes. All that stuff's easy to see, and it's easy to put a plan together. We can see where other guys have been hunting. Some of those spots look really good. We may hang in a different tree. We may utilize the same tree. We found a couple spots with no sign of hunting that looked really good. So it's just, it looks really promising.
Was that happen to be Madison County, Iowa? Mark Coleman wants to know.
It's not Addison County, no.
Madison County.
What was it?
Madison with an M.
No.
Nope. So, were you using an app to mark spots as you walked along the property and checked it out and got all that all set up?
Yeah, we both have Onyx, so we were able to track our movement throughout the whole property. We mark any good sign. I typically mark. I won't mark every rub I see, but if I find a rub line or a couple of really good rubs, I'll mark them. I pretty much mark as many scrapes as I can. If there's a major creek crossing, I'll mark that. Fence crossing, I'll mark that. You know, if we actually, there was a couple trees that we marked this, you know, and I'll put it right in there, you know, this is a spot, this wind, you gotta, you know, this is a spot you wanna be in. So, you know, stuff like that.
You know, I know that, you know, you're just out there and the conditions aren't going to be the same as they are in the fall, especially a year from now when you go out there. But did you happen to notice, you know, like wind? Was wind a big factor out there compared to here in Michigan?
Well, in the hill country in Indiana, I can say, because I've actually hunted down there, it's way different. You know, you can have a straight west wind that's coming out of the east. If you're on the backside of the hill, because it just loops over the top and basically backdrafts, depending on how the wind speeds, how high the hill is, how steep the hill is. So you really gotta pay attention to all that. It's a lot harder to hunt correct winds in the hill country than it is in the flatter areas like we have to hunt here.
Yeah, where I've hunted down in Indiana, it's you know, flat open farmland with creek bottoms, and that when it blows, it just blows one way. You don't have to worry about the hills and stuff, but
yeah, it's really big hills down where we're at, so it's not like that at all.
makes a difference, definitely.
So you okay? So you went out to Iowa. Your eyes are big as saucers, knowing that in 2023 you're going to be out there picking up these sheds. Now you come back to Michigan. You do some shed hunting on your lease here in southern Michigan.
Yep.
What was your overall expectations when you started looking over that property?
Well, I always go multiple days in the Michigan farm, and then we do usually what we have like a group day where I'll get a group of 5 or 6 buddies out there together on the same day. And I picked up a couple with my daughter, a couple small ones, but for that group shed hunt, I usually wait till the last part of March, late in March, when most of the bucks have dropped, and typically we'll find anywhere from 3 or 4 to maybe 8, 10 on the high side in that day, which is pretty good in Michigan. This particular year, unfortunately, that night we got a little bit of snow cover though, so the first half of the day we were battling, really poor shed hunting conditions with snow on the ground. We really didn't pick up an antler until that snow melted off outside of, I think I sent you a picture of a deadhead that I found there. I ended up finding a big non-typical, actually 15 scoreable point buck in the morning with the snow still on the ground, which was kind of a surprise because I never had a picture of that deer last year one time.
I was just about to say, did you have that on camera or anything? You never seen that deer before?
I had seen him before. I had pictures of him back in 2020.
Oh.
And he was just a goofy, lopsided 9-pointer. He had that same 5-point main frame on the right, and then he had a goofy 4 on the left. But never had pictures of him late season, had no inclination that he had made it through, and not, like I said, never one picture in 2021 at any point. And I run a lot of cameras. Actually, the buck I shot this past fall died, I'd say 100 yards from where I found that deadhead. So he was in that area and just never walked in front of a camera for whatever reason.
Yeah, there's a big wreck on that dude.
Yeah, you'll see it when you're in the store. He's
got it in the store.
He's got it in the store.
Yeah, I already got the European mount. I had a buddy take it to a guy he knows, and he had it done actually in 4 days. I could not believe it.
Wow.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, you'll see it tomorrow when you go there. But that's got. I know you do really well on the Michigan farm that you got leased. But seeing something like that's got to be a good, bad feeling, knowing that, wow, we got bucks out there like this, but obviously picking up a deadhead wasn't good.
No, it's always bittersweet. They're cool to find, but you hate to find them like that. You'd much rather have an opportunity at them next year. That one a little bit different because I didn't know he was still there. I had no idea, so it's more of a shock when you find something like that. You like to think you know what's in the area, but it just goes to show no matter how many cameras are out there and what you think you know, you don't really know everything.
Right.
Right. Well, that also plays into maybe he got pushed out of an area or whatever.
Yeah, and I think the neighbors probably shot him based on where he died. So maybe he was living there primarily, and when he got shot, ran on us. I'm not sure.
You know, and that's one of the things, you know, your neighbors that you got there, it's one of those things, you don't know if they maybe shot at him or something happened to him, or maybe it was natural causes. Were you thinking about what the age of that deer was?
I'm guessing he's 4.5-year-old.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't think, because the year I had pictures of him, I couldn't put him any older than 3.5. I questioned whether he was 2.5 or 3.5. So last year I would have put him 3.5 or 4.5, and I just have a hard time believing a 3-year-old would have that much mass. So I'm guessing he's probably 4.5-year-old.
Yeah, he's a nice buck, that's for sure.
Well, I tell you what, we're bumping up here close to our last break. Let's take a break. We come back. We'll wrap it up. We'll talk about how you're using your shed hunting to do your scouting with here in the springtime. So we're going to step outside. We're going to take our next break, and we'll be right back after this. Alrighty.
All right, folks, last segment.
Okay.
As long as we don't get pop-ups again.
Yeah. Zoom is playing some nasty tricks tonight. All right, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, and 1. All right, back for the last segment of the show. We've been talking about all these big antlers that he's been finding out here in Iowa and Indiana and Michigan.
And are you finding, and the question coming in is, are you finding more sheds in the open fields or maybe in creek bottoms or somewhere else?
Not a lot in open fields. I just want to let you guys know I got that timer running down on me again at 8 minutes. So
Okay. Well, we'll try to keep her to 8 minutes here then.
But anyway, we find I'd say the highest concentration in bedding that's adjacent to food. A lot of fields, at least in Michigan, it seems like a lot of fields have almost a buffer strip of tall grass or CRP or whatever you want to call it between the edge of the crops and the woods. So it seems like a lot of deer at night when they feed, they might lay down on the edge of the field, and then they get back up, feed, lay back down on the edge, get back up, feed some more. We do pretty well in those areas. In Iowa, we really concentrated on south-facing slopes because you get more sun in the wintertime. And that paid off on a couple of them. We had one that was a real grassy, it was kind of cedars and pines mixed with tall grass. So it was just a premier bedding area, and it was adjacent to a pond, kind of below a food plot. And then we probably found a dozen of the 26 antlers in that general area. So I would focus on south-facing slopes, and then you just find some in the craziest places. We were on a ridge top out there and trying to figure out how to get over to another area, and we're like, well, we'll just dive off the side of this ridge and go down through this bottom and up. We get halfway down the side of the ridge, and there's a match set of a 10-pointer laying right on the side of the hill. You just never know. Never know where you're going to find them. But I would focus on the bedding near food sources, the heavy trails coming to and from, bed to feed to bed, whichever way you want to look at it, and then those south-facing slopes for sure.
So you're getting to these areas where you know deer are going to hold up, where they're most likely to drop them, but that's where you're finding the sign as well. So that way, that's how you're using this as a scouting tactic?
Yeah, I mean, if you're finding a lot of, deer poop in that time of year, you're going to find shit. That's where you're going to find the sheds, because that's where they've been hanging, fresh sign like that. But as far as deer sign, as far as to hunt, it's a little bit different, because the deer tend to yard up in the wintertime, and a lot of them, they're in a lot bigger groups than they're going to be in the fall. So I don't pay too much attention to where I find sheds as far as where I'm going to hunt a specific deer, unless it's in an isolated spot. Like we found that biggest match set that I found in Iowa was on a small little point that stuck off a big ridge where he's overlooking a huge bottom, and it's probably a spot that he's bedded many a time because he can see a lot. He's got the wind in his favor, anything coming from behind him, and he can see anything approaching. So a spot like that, you'll keep in mind, a mental note to keep an eye on it. And there was a lot of rubs up above that point on the main ridge there. There was probably, in a 200-yard stretch, there had to be 100 rubs up on that ridge.
Wow.
So sheds like that, you make a mental note.
Definitely.
But overall, I mean, just the fact that you're in the woods that time of year and you're able to see all the sign and put the pieces of the puzzle together, and from what happened in the fall is the big thing for me.
Yeah, like you said, rub line scrapes, trails, and things of that nature. But that was, you answered the question I was going to ask, is about this time of year. Obviously, deer activity is a lot different than it is in the fall. And yarding up and things of that nature. So you just kind of use that as a tool to kind of get you in that general area, and then start, like you said, digging a little deeper, finding those specific spots. So
yeah, obviously it'll tell you if a deer made it through too, if you didn't have pictures to verify that, if you can pick up an antler from it.
right.
So that's a bonus as well.
Absolutely.
Are you going to hang cameras according to where you found some of them sheds? For next year, are you going to hang them coming into the late season, or are you not allowed on the property this year?
More so we'll hang cameras more so on the sign than the sheds probably.
Okay.
And we did ask the landowner this year if he would be okay with us leaving a couple cameras. So we left 2 cameras, and we're just going to leave them for an entire calendar year.
Okay.
In a couple good areas, kind of out of the way, where nobody's going to find them, and hopefully they're still there next spring. But next year, definitely we'll be running some cameras, including cellular cameras, because we'll be the first guys on that ground. There won't be anybody hunting before us next year.
Okay.
That's awesome. Wow. Looks like we're going to be talking to him in
23 about the giant buck that he took.
24.
24, yeah.
Depending on when he comes back.
Right.
Oh, I hope so.
I have full confidence in you. You will complete the mission.
Oh man.
Well, you said it's a dream come true, right?
It is. Yeah, it's a hunt I've always thought about doing, and a few years ago it became a reality, so I pursued it. And the guy I'm going with, me and him, we're both pretty successful hunters here in Michigan, but we kind of go about it in a different way. And I think scouting with him over the last couple of years, we kind of both learned some new tactics from each other, because we go about the way we hunt a little bit different. We're both successful in the way we do it, so it's kind of, I think, help both of us. I think between the two of us, we're going to figure that out down there. I'll be really surprised if we don't kill one, at least, if not both of us, get something out of there.
There you go.
Well, what to me is I find really intriguing is the fact that you're putting 2 years of scouting into this. I mean, and I guess when you're going on a hunt like that, you really do need to do your homework and what we would call your extra credit homework as well,
right.
The extra year, to be able to get in there.
Yeah, this year was just the feeler out process. The shed hunting kind of took over as we started finding them, and we did more of that than actual picking spots. And we walked as much as we could, to get a feel for the ground. But next spring it'll be picking a tree.
Mm-hmm.
We're still going to shed hunt because it's pretty fun and exciting, but we're going to be picking and hanging stands next spring. So
Right.
It'll be much more precise scouting next year, where we're actually picking the tree that we might shoot a deer out of.
I'll tell you what, we're going to wrap it up here before the counter counts down on us. So
I'm at a minute and a half.
okay, all right. So I'll tell you what, once we wrap up with the show here, we'll
Just hang on,
we'll reconnect with you again. So,
Okay.
but Danny, pull up the website again real quick, if you don't mind.
Right here, folks. Get over to sunrisearchery.com. Go check it out. They've got a bunch of stuff over there. Pick up a hat or two.
Get your bow tuned.
You know what?
Get a new bow.
We didn't even get into talking about the boots they have there. If you need some hunting boots.
That's where my boots came from.
That's right. Get over there, check it out. The flagship. He's got a bunch of different bows. Try them out. It's like buying a car, right?
That's
Shoot
right.
them all. So, all right.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us this week, folks. Remember to go over to Derek's social media page, over to Sunrise Archery social media. Give him a like, follow, share. Share the show for us as well. If you're listening over on iTunes, give us a review. That helps the people who support us, like Sunrise Archery. So that's going to do it for us this week. Next week?
Next week, Adam Wynn will be on, a hunter and fisherman and a watcher of the show.
All right, so we'll have Adam on. We'll pick his brain on some fishing, and he's doing some turkey hunting as we speak, I do believe.
Yes.
All right, that's going to do it for us this week, folks. We'll be back again next week, same time, 7:30. Y'all take care.